Welcome to the Hunger for Change podcast, where we debunk health myths and exchange interesting conversation with global visionaries reshaping health. I'm your host, Niklas Gustafson, and today it's my pleasure to welcome Madeleine Shaw, an expert in nutrition, yoga, and holistic health. Starting her journey to better health after facing challenges, Madeleine emerged as a beacon of holistic living, integrating her nutrition know-how to guide others. She's not only a celebrated author with her book Get the Glow, but also a mentor through her online community, The Glow Space. Madeleine provides a range of tools for anyone looking to improve their diet, stay active, and manage stress effectively. Let's welcome Madeleine Shaw and learn practical tips for a healthier, more balanced lifestyle. Thank you so much, Madeleine, for joining me today. What does health mean to you?
I think health to me is all about how you feel on the inside. So waking up with energy, sleeping well at night, showing up in your relationship, showing up at work. I think for me it's just really simply feeling good. That's what health is to me.
Could you please talk about the challenges that led you to where you are today?
Yeah, of course. So I went to university in Australia, in Sydney. And when I was living over there, I got diagnosed with IBS, so irritable bowel syndrome. And this is 13, 14 years ago. And there wasn't very much on it. And I didn't really know what it was, what to do. And I thought I was eating really healthily, diet drinks, diet yogurts, anything with diet written on it.
Yeah.
It was really that era of time. So I ended up seeing this naturopath, and she was like, you need to start eating whole foods. You need to start eating like meat, grass-fed meat and fish and nuts and seeds. Yeah. And I've been told for so long, fat was bad for you, don't eat it. And within like a matter of weeks, I just felt so much better. My hair started to grow. I had way more energy. I was 21 and I had brain fog and I felt awful. And that's meant to be the moment you're like most vibrant in your life. I went on this big journey. So I really started to change what I was eating, but I really started to change my lifestyle. So I started taking up yoga. I started taking up meditation. So I really started to look at health in this really like 360 holistic way. I ended up eating in this cafe so much, they gave me a job. And I just fell in love with it. And I honestly, at that point, I was 21, 22. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And both my parents, age 14, knew what they wanted to do. One's a psychiatrist, one's a physiotherapist, went off, did it. And to this day, they still love what they do. Every morning on a Monday, they wake up and love their job. So I knew that was in me. In my heart, I was like, I will have a job I love. And when I find whatever that is, I'm going to go for it in the way that my parents have. So when I found kind of food and nutrition, and again, this wasn't really a career, but I was like, I'm really happy doing this. I love this. So I moved actually to France for a little while, where I set up my website, my blog, which was 12 years ago, and then moved back to London, which is where I grew up. And I guess, just started sharing like recipes and tips, and then went back to school and studied nutrition. And I've released 3 cookbooks. And I guess I started at a time where it was not cool and it was not known. And now it's become amazing, people.
So you released 3 cookbooks?
I have, yeah, I did. So that was, that was really amazing. And I would have never thought I'd be able to do that. Like, I always thought that's what like Jamie Oliver did, or like, someone with like a TV personality. But I guess there was an appetite for, food and health and wellness. And it was definitely something that I've really enjoyed sharing with people. The food side, but also the kind of tips, whether it's like dry brushing or mindful breaths or yoga. I've always tried to have that slightly holistic view, because I think you can eat all the kale in the world, but if you're really stressed or you're not moving your body, it doesn't work. So I think we always have to look at people in this really like 360 holistic way. And I always think that that's the approach that I like to take.
Right. So you moved from Australia to France, and from France back to the UK, and that's where you are based now.
It is. That's where I'm based now.
Could we dig a little deeper into IBS? What are the challenges with getting it diagnosed and how you deal with it?
Yeah, so the really interesting thing about IBS is it's not a disease, it's a condition. So it's not, so with a disease, there's the disease and a cure, but with a condition, it's about management. So you never sort of cure it, you just realize what triggers it or how to manage it. Statistics vary. Sometimes people say it's 1 in 4 people have it, sometimes it's less.
Wow.
But I think it is incredibly common. You know, more and more people are having digestive issues. And I guess IBS is quite an umbrella bracket, and some people get it in really extreme and less extreme versions. And it can also kind of show in the same way that, you know, Crohn's disease does and other conditions as well. So it's quite a tricky one. So when I first sort of started researching about it, getting into it, one of the biggest things that like came up for me was stress management. So I think we all know about that kind of gut brain axis. So, you know, when we fancy someone, we feel like butterflies, or when we're really worried about an exam, we feel sick to our stomach. So we know there's that like connection. But if you think about it, when we're living stressful lives, which often we do, we're consistently sending these messages to our digestive system, which might mean like making it, you know, tighter, less constrictive. So a lot of people kind of go one way or the other. Some people get more constipated. Some people have more kind of diarrhea. I hope, are we okay to talk about this stuff? I know some people.
Of course.
So it's definitely an interesting one. So a lot of people recommend the low FODMAP diet. So this is kind of quite niche and quite, in my opinion, quite difficult to manage. But they actually did this study where they took 2 groups of people. One group did the low FODMAP diet. One group of people just did some hatha yoga. So quite a gentle type of yoga 3 days a week. Got to the end of the trial and they both came up with the same results, which is really interesting. It kind of shows you that actually movement and breath work can have the same positive effects on your digestive system as a specific kind of controlled diet. So I think my biggest thing was looking at stress management and having had no kind of tools to do that. It just wasn't really a thing that I was taught. And I think I definitely held a lot of things in. I think I was like a lot of, I'm sure men feel this, but a lot of women, I feel like you're told to be like nice and like easygoing and like show up. And I think in that, I probably wasn't expressing myself as much. And I did this 40 days and 40 nights of yoga meditation. And it was really interesting. They talked about like the tapes you play in your head. So like everyone plays tapes. It might be like, when I get rich, I will do this. Or like, when I achieve this at work, I'll do this. And it's always like happiness kind of in the future. And we're playing these tapes all the time. And I just remember that, you know, starting to become and have awareness of my thoughts. And I'm really interested in kind of the tapes we play, the thoughts we tell ourselves and how they impact us. So starting to do like meditation, breath work, breathing, and that was a big part that really helped me with my digestion. It was less so about the food.
Oh, really?
And more so about that side of things for me. However, that's not to say that I did start to eat really well and, you know, good organic food, you know, lots of vegetables. And also another thing that I think is super underestimated when it comes to digestion and health, which everyone struggles to do, is chewing our food. So we're always eating like on the go. We're eating like, while we're watching something on Netflix or like, you know, walking down the road. And actually digestion, you know, starts like in the mouth. We've got to chew our food, you know, 10 to 15 times. And really take that time to absorb the food. And I think that's something that whenever I've given that to a client or spoken to anyone about that, that's been the biggest game changer for them. Like sometimes you don't need to go into these big like parasite cleanses or these protocols. And sometimes I think people like to leap to those things way before they've done the like base work. So like filtered water, chewing the food, managing stress, like almost get the baseline of the core foundations of health before we jump into these more, I don't know, like these protocols for specific things. Because I think sometimes it can be actually more simple than we want it to be.
Yeah. So for you, it was more about stress management than the nutrition itself. But I mean, nutrition is also important in that sense, right?
100%, yeah. And I think probably because I was already really on that journey, that showed. But, you know, I I was quite restrictive at first. So when I first was doing it, I cut out like gluten, I cut out dairy. I got quite triggered by certain foods like grapes and raisins.
Oh, yeah.
But now I can introduce them into my diet and I don't get any reaction. So I think quite a lot of the time when you're feeling a bit more sensitive, or maybe you've got like leaky gut or you've got something going on, you do get more kind of reactions. But I found now I actually don't get any reactions to any foods, which is really nice because I think it's better to have a more diverse diet than a more restrictive diet. And I don't know about you, but it feels like on social media, everyone's telling us to like not eat everything. And sometimes it can feel quite overwhelming and suddenly your diet is narrowed down to like 5 things. So I think more that we can be open to eating a variety of food, because there's the side of managing your gut health, but then there's also the side of growing that microbiome. And that comes from diversity. One of the best things that we can do is eat lots of different types of plants. So I think the more that we can open up our diet, the better.
Variation is very important. And also, I've been gluten intolerant since I was a child, and I've noticed that once you stop eating gluten totally for months or even years, then you become more resistant. So if you have gluten by accident, it's not such an impact for your body, because then you're more resistant. So I completely agree with what you say.
Yeah, and I think where we went wrong with gluten is we ate too much of it. Like, I don't know about you guys, but it would be like bread for breakfast, sandwich for lunch, pasta for dinner.
Yes.
And, you know, also the way wheat's grown is not the same.
No, as it was.
So I think there's these two kind of variables.
We eat too much, we eat it too often, and the gluten itself, I mean, the wheat itself is, the content of gluten is much, much higher now than it was before. And also that combined with pesticides makes it even more vulnerable for our body.
Totally, yeah. I mean, you know, to find bread that's water and flour it's harder to find that, which is all the ingredients you need. Sometimes there's like 10 ingredients, isn't there, in like breads or wraps or all these things.
So to our public that might not be that familiarized with holistic nutrition, would you please explain what it is and what makes it so complete?
I guess it's all about nourishment, so nourishing someone's body. I really love the philosophy of crowding in rather than cutting out. So I think, you know, when you think I'm going to add in more foods to my diet, you're much more likely to stick at it than when you say to yourself, I can't eat pizza or I can't eat pasta. So I like that idea of crowding rather than cutting out. I have kind of like a few targets that I like to get to. So I try and do like 30 grams of fiber a day.
What kind of fiber is that? How do you prioritize fiber? I mean,
so just looking at fiber rich foods, so things like chickpeas, lentils, lots of different types of vegetables, you know, seeds, adding those in to meals as much as possible. I think that for increasing the microbiome in the guts, keeping everything regular. So, and also I think it's nice to have sort of positive nutrition targets rather than like, oh, I can't eat over X amount of calories or I can't do this. So it feels more expansive than restrictive.
I agree. I think that's important. Fiber should come from vegetables more than from cereals.
There's lots of amazing fiber-rich foods. Yeah, I was definitely brought up on all bran.
Yeah, I could never eat that because it's a lot of gluten in all bran, but yeah.
And then I've always been a big believer in protein for breakfast. So this is going to keep us fuller for longer.
Right.
You know, balancing your blood sugar levels is really important in holistic nutrition. So we just want people to have that stable kind of source of energy throughout the day, rather than when you say start your day with toast and jam and you feel really great, and then you get this crash at like 10, 11 a.m. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I get a crash at 10 or 11 a.m., it might be that you're on a bit of a blood sugar level roller coaster. So instead, maybe starting your day with, you know, 2 or 3 like boiled eggs, a bit of avocado, 2 different types of vegetables, you're going to notice that you're going to feel fuller for longer. You're not going to get these crashes in the middle of the day. And I think we want our food to empower us to then go out and live our lives. And whatever that means, if you're a parent, you're hanging out with your kid, or whether you're working in your job, I think often, people think that, oh, nutrition's going to take up so much more of my time. But actually, I think it gives you back more time, because you're not trying to find the next snack or the next coffee or the next pick-me-up. You feel good, and you should feel good between breakfast and lunch.
Yeah.
And then with like lunch and dinner, I always say the easiest way to kind of feel good is to look at your plate, make half of it your vegetables, try and get different colors on your plate. A quarter of it is your protein source, and that might be your fish, your chicken, your meat. If you're vegetarian, it might be your tofu or lentils or chickpeas. And then another quarter can be some form of carbohydrate, whether that's sweet potato, or rice or quinoa, or it could be the lentils or the chickpeas, and then some healthy fats in there. So that's like your avocados, your nuts, your seeds, olive oil on top. And this really gives you a really nourishing plate of food, with all the different colors. And if you can get 2 of those in a day, you're really sailing, and you're going to really feel good. Again, you're going to keep that kind of energy going throughout the day. You're not going to get those crashes. And I think, again, it's, maybe it's like setting yourself a target of each week trying a new vegetable. So you go to the farmer's market or the supermarket and you've never cooked with fennel before, and you try that. And I think having that positive mindset, that curious mindset kind of keeps you on this journey, because food is beautiful and it's such an amazing thing that connects people together. And I think we need to add that in. And I think then if you want to also have a margarita or some chocolate on the side, go for it. But like, you're so nourished that you're less likely to like binge out on those food or feel like desperate for them, because you'll feel really nourished within you.
Going back to your morning routine, you mentioned eggs for breakfast. Anything else? How does a perfect morning look like to you?
I normally wake up, but I have a son, he's 6, and I wake up before my son, and my partner wake up. So I wake up first and I'll come downstairs, and I normally do my movement then. So I'm also a yoga and Pilates teacher. I've been teaching yoga for 9 years, and Pilates only the last year I've got really into it. I love starting my morning with movement. I found like during lockdown and during times I just wasn't exercising because I wasn't able to like get to a class. So I've just find moving at home.
Is that before breakfast?
Before breakfast, yeah. First thing. So I'll wake up. I normally hydrate first thing with like a litre of filtered water, get loads and loads of water in, and then go to the mat. Do like 30 minutes of either Pilates or yoga. And then after that, I'll meditate. So I do TM, transcendental meditation. So like a mantra-based meditation. So you repeat a Sanskrit mantra over and over in your mind. And I really like that because I'm not a visual person. So if you said to me, close your eyes and think of a beach, I wouldn't be able to see it. Like I just see like sort of shapes and things. So I like, I really go well with a mantra-based meditation because I can kind of feel in and kind of switch off in that way. I find the guided meditations quite difficult. So that's kind of my morning routine. And then normally everyone else wakes up in the house and I'll make breakfast. And so, yeah, it might be eggs. I do a lot of like pancakes for my son, and that's like 2 eggs blended with a banana, and that's like yogurt and nuts and seeds. Sometimes I'll do porridge, again, like adding in like fruit, nuts and seeds to it. I went through a bit of doing smoothies with protein powder and like 1 veg, 1 fruit. But I find I prefer like a hot meal. I feel fuller from that than just from a smoothie. But yeah, and sometimes I eat leftovers for breakfast as well. You know, like you've got a excess of, I don't know, something in the fridge and I'll have that. But yeah, I tend to normally eat breakfast with my son as like just nice connection kind of way to start the day. But that's kind of been my morning routine for quite a while now, is that sort of movement, meditation, and then eating. and then rushing to school afterwards.
I heard you talked about the circadian rhythm. What role does it play in our overall health? How important is it to our health?
It's probably like the foundation of it. I probably would say sleep is the number one place to start when it comes, because I think when you sleep well, you're so much more likely to want to wake up and exercise. You're more likely to want to meditate. You're more likely to want to nourish your body. So I think, starting your day with some sunlight on your skin is a really good way of resetting your circadian rhythm. So, most average people wake up and look at their phones, right? This is kind of the norm. Like, you wake up, you look at your phone, and you're scrolling or you're on your emails or something. And I think, again, people are doing that before they go to bed. It's like the last thing they see in the morning. And that's really disturbing for our circadian rhythm, because when we're looking at our phone or our TVs or screens, it stops us producing melatonin, because it's basically telling us it's like awake time. It's like time to go. So that means, that you might not fall asleep as easily, or you might be waking in the night, or you might not be getting into that really like deep sleep. So if you can, I know that everyone gets really like angsty when I tell this to people, but if you can, like, out of your room, it will be the best thing you can do for your health, but also your relationship. Like, it's not very nice when someone else is on their phone and you're like, but love me, not your phone.
I agree. I talk a lot about how important it is to get sunlight on your skin and in your eyes, especially in the morning, but also throughout the day. And I always get these angry comments from people living in Sweden or in the UK or in the Netherlands, saying that, but from October to March, there is no sunlight at all here. What do I do? And I mean, there is always some sunlight. Okay, it's not like living in Spain or in Italy, but I think that it is important to at least try and at least be outside, even though it's December or January and it's quite dark.
It's just switching your habits. And they do say you do need longer when it's cloudy. So like, say 20 minutes if it's cloudy versus 10 minutes if it's not. Right. But why not? Like, if your morning routine is eating breakfast or having your coffee or exercising, do it outside. Like, if it's your local park, or if you're, lucky enough to have a garden or a balcony or something, like, it's switching those habits. And then I think, like you said, we want it throughout the day. So maybe at lunchtime, you go on a lunchtime walk instead of, I don't know.
Exactly.
Doing something else, or maybe have walking meetings,
That's a great idea.
Another thing that I really love doing, we do like a family walk after dinner, and sometimes it's dark, but it just really is great for the digestive system. After you've had your dinner, go for a little walk. It can be like 10 minutes around the block.
Doesn't have to be long.
I live in the UK and it is grey, it is quite rainy, and sometimes it is, but like, you've got to still get out there. Like, that's, you get yourself a raincoat or an umbrella and you go for it. But I think you're right. Maybe it's like morning, lunchtime, evening. And it kind of sounds silly that we have to tell ourselves to go outside, because it's like the most natural thing to do.
Totally.
But when you either work from home or you drive to the office, it can be really easy not to get outside. But I think, as much as we can, if we can hit those like morning,
exactly,
day, evenings, they're really good. And then again, in the evening, like really being conscious of that light stimulation. So switching off your electronics. I've got some of those like anti-blue light bulbs.
Yeah.
So they're really nice. I've got them in the bedroom and like any areas, you might use in the evening. And they have made such a difference for me. They're slightly orangey. So like, if you're very aesthetic, you might not like the color, but they do make you less stimulated. And they're just really helpful because, I like to read before bed, and, sometimes you don't want to be in darkness.
No. And I mean, change your mobile phone to night shift and all that. I think people are getting more and more aware of how important it is. I've done it myself, and to light up candles instead of light bulbs, and that's important. I think people like it as well.
I think they do, yeah. I think the blue light glasses have become quite trendy as well.
Yeah,
they look very, very cool. But yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think it feels nice, like, when you put a child to bed, you give them a bath and you read them a story and you like give them this really nice like wind down. Whereas as humans, like as adults, we're just like, we treat ourselves like robots where we're just like, go, go, go. And then we lie down expecting it to be like instantly we turn off. So I think having that like that wind down before it's so good for your sleep. So dim lights, reading a book, or even just like getting your clothes ready for the next day, or doing your skincare, or maybe stretching, or like, I don't know, legs up the wall or something like that. Anything to kind of wind down, I think are really, really great things to do.
You mentioned the importance of understanding our unique bodies, that we're all unique. Could you elaborate on how to tailor wellness practices to individual needs?
That's a great question. So yeah, I definitely agree. We're all bio-individual. And I think we often like will look at a model and be like, well, if I eat like her, I will look like her. And of course, it doesn't work that way. And often they're kind of genetically blessed in those ways. But I think a lot of it is detective work. I think there's an overall foundation of the fact that we all need good quality sleep. We all need good quality water. We all need good quality food. I definitely know some people who, all legumes, chickpeas, lentils just don't work for them. We know they're fiber rich, we know it, but like they just get bloated, they feel awful on them. That's not for them. So I think it's having that self-awareness of like, when I eat this, it doesn't feel good. And respecting that, and having that awareness. I think those things are really good to do. And same with things like movement. A lot of people might say, oh, I don't know, lifting weights is the best and it's the one thing you have to do. But I think if you enjoy the movement, whether it's dancing or rock climbing or whatever, and it's something you're up for doing consistently every week, then I think that's fantastic. I don't think there's one exercise for everyone. I think we all enjoy different things. I think it's just about moving our body, getting out there. Same with meditation as well. I don't think that's for everyone. Maybe it's mindful drawing or breath work, or like watching a candle flicker, or something that kind of stills your mind. So I think we have to all be open to trying different things, and also realize that we're going to change based on our age and like what we need in that time. As you age, you might need different kind of nutrients and you might need to change up your exercise. But I think if we keep the kind of foundations of what I was talking about with the balancing the plate, the protein for breakfast, I think that's something that we're always all going to need. And then you can kind of make your tweaks like here and there. And I know that's quite frustrating because I think everyone wants to know like the answer and like the supplement. But I think, yeah, we are all really unique. And that's kind of the best thing about us, right? That's like the thing that keeps us breathing and living and like doing what we do is our uniqueness. Because if we were all the same, then it would be a bit complicated. So I think leaning into that is a good thing. So I think, yeah, having that awareness, whether that's writing like a little food diary and noting like how you feel on something, how you don't, those things are really good to do. And like being open to that. And then, I'm always quite big on like 80-20, like 80% of the time looking after yourself, but also 20% of the time allowing for whatever the other kind of things you want to do in your life. Because if you have a strong body that can, that sleeps well and eats well and moves well, you can tolerate a night out and, a bit of like food or whatever it is now and then. Because I think actually, to me, the most healthy and resilient people can have wine and feel good and can still sleep well and can go out and things like that. And I think sometimes in the health and wellness space, it can be quite sort of like, no, you must be in bed at 9 p.m. and you must not do any of these other things. And like, I think there has to be a flexibility of like what life has in store and all the really fun, great experiences that are out there as well to be had.
I agree. Also, when you get older, you're more sensible. For example, you mentioned alcohol. Alcohol, I think it might not impact you as much when you're younger when it comes to sleep, but when you get older, it's, to me at least, I complete quit alcohol a couple of years ago. and I noticed how my sleep improved a lot. That's amazing. But I agree that it has to do with where you are in life. If you're 20 years old or 30 or 40 or in my case 50.
I actually quit alcohol for 10 years in my 20s. So
Yeah.
opposite. And
wow,
then,
that's great. Yeah.
and then interestingly have come back.
Yeah.
Coming back to drink, not like I'm now like drinking loads, but I'm much more, I don't know, I'm just more relaxed about it. Whereas I think I went through a time where I was like, no, I'm into health and I'm like, not doing this. And like, not that I'm getting trashed every weekend. We're talking like twice a year.
Twice a year. Okay.
Or like 3-4 times a year or something. But I'm just a bit more flexible than I was before. But I've done it backwards.
I don't think I would go back. Actually, I'm so happy having left that part of my life behind. I'm older than you also, so but I mean all the good things of not having that glass of wine or a couple of glasses of wine. I'm so happy.
No, it's amazing, and you're so right about the sleep because it does dehydrates you.
Yeah,
you never get into that deep sleep. You always wake in the night, don't you? And I think
so. You mentioned movement, exercise, and how important that is for wellness in general. What is your advice for finding a form of exercise that feels less like a must and more like a joy?
There's always going to be a little bit of a battle within you, even if it's your favorite exercise where you're like, should I just sleep in? Could I miss it? Do I not want to go? So I think that's a natural voice that's going to be in your head. But I think you never regret it at the end, do you? You always feel amazing. So I think it's really, sometimes I like to like go back to childhood. So it's like, what did you like to do when you were a kid?
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I love team sports. And if you're like a real team sport person, then why not join a netball or football league or whatever? And that can be your form of exercise 2 times a week. And you can have that kind of companionship and comradeship. So my thing I always wanted to be when I was a little girl was similar to what I do, but was to have a marshmallow stand. So sell marshmallows, and it was going to be called Madeleine's Marshmallow Stand. And it didn't kick off, but I think obviously there was an innate in me like speaking to people and all those sorts of things. But I always think you are still like your child, like you're still the person you were as a child. You've just got a few more years on you. So I always think looking at what you did is great. And also just trying new things. There's so many amazing like things online, on YouTube. You can try out so many different classes. Like we've never had more access to like fitness, whether online or in person, than ever before. So just give everything a try. Like see something, Qigong, you're like, what's Qigong? Let's give it a go. You try it. If you feel great afterwards and you've got an to go back again. A lot of it's about the teacher though, right? You want to feel a connection to the teacher. You want to feel supported, held, like, and that they get you as a person as well, because I think often you attract like your tribe and like your kind of people. So I think looking for that is a great thing to do. Yeah, I think, just staying open to trying new things and like being realistic as well. Like I think often when we start exercise, we're like, it's going to be 8 days, back to back, 6 hours a day or something. But, just pick like a time of day that you think's best for you. For me, I know the morning works for me, but if you're more of a lunchtime or an evening person, some people are kind of anti-evening exercise because it can disrupt your sleep. But equally, like if that's the only time you can move, like that's, the time that you can move. Sometimes people think with exercise that has to be grueling or it has to be like causing you unhappiness, but actually there are a few things that we can control in life. And if you're choosing exercise, let's choose something that brings you joy and happiness and adds into your life a bit more.
And when you say that it is a struggle before before the workout, I totally agree, because I think most people feel like that. You need to like push yourself, otherwise you will never get there. That's the same thing with anything that, for example, cold plunges or workout, or you even go outside for a walk. Okay, you might be cozy in your sofa and it's raining outside, it's cold outside. But you need to like push yourself, because at the end you will never regret a workout, never. But before, it is a struggle. And actually yesterday my I talked to my mom. She listened to a podcast that I had with Thomas Seeger, and he was talking about the cold plunges, how good they are for your health. And she said, I would never do that because why should I go into a cold water? That's completely against the nature of it, And I said, yeah, that's the thing. You need to push yourself. You need to go into that cold plunge, and afterwards, that's when you feel great. But before, it's always a struggle. So I think that's the same thing with a lot of things in life. Getting out of your comfort zone. That is always something that you won't regret afterwards.
100%. And it's building that muscle of discipline, that muscle of, a long-term, not like a short-term reward. It's like that long-term because...
Exactly.
And I think, it's okay to not listen to that voice, to be like, actually, I know I'm going to feel better and just push through. Like sometimes I sleep in like a sports bra and like leggings so that like just when I wake up, I'm just out, I'm off.
You're ready.
To get dressed in the morning or do anything.
You're prepared when you wake up.
Like I think sometimes we don't always have motivation, but we can still have discipline and just push ourselves onto the mat.
Yeah.
And that sounds, discipline sounds sort of quite like negative, and it's not, because really, the reward is that you're nourishing your body, you're helping yourself.
Yeah.
And, that conversation is very short-lived in your brain, isn't it? It's like, do I want to do this?
Yeah.
No, but I'm going to do it. And like, that's it.
So you mentioned yoga. I'd like to know, how has yoga played such an important part in your life, and what are the benefits? Because I've tried so many times starting to do yoga, but I don't know. Usually I'm quite disciplined in my life, but yoga has never become that part of my life that I wanted to.
Yeah, no, I get that. And like, I can understand why it's not for everyone. Some people, they might feel intimidated because there's someone like doing a handstand or the splits or something. And then for some people, it's just too slow and boring. So yeah, I got into yoga. Well, I actually first started when I was 18. I did it a little bit during my A-levels, which is like your final exams at school. My mum kind of recommended it to me, and I sort of went along a little bit and didn't think that much of it. Probably kind of was just like, yeah, I'm not into this. And then when I was in Sydney, I actually went to the studio because I had a crush on someone. But that's sometimes a good way to get into something. And anyway, I just really loved the aspect of it was vinyasa style yoga. So it's a bit more of a stronger, faster pace. It's about movement with breath. So I like that sort of breath work element where you were kind of really focusing on breathing, which is definitely something I hadn't thought about or consciously had awareness of before. And then I like the kind of strong strengthening element of it. I guess for me, yoga is a movement, but it's also like a meditative, like spiritual practice. So it sort of brings those things together because you're moving with your breath, because there's elements of like pranayama, so breath work. There's elements of meditation, and like shavasana, where you lie down at the end, and sometimes they give you a massage.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I had a real connection to it. I felt a real high after it. I don't know. I like that sort of that journey where you're sort of by yourself, but you're together. So you're kind of doing your own thing, but you're also in that kind of community element. And I think I also felt like I found a lot of my people through yoga. People who are into yoga are often also into like healthy eating or meditation or mindful living. So I felt like I really connected with a lot of people in and outside the studio, and like made friends through just going to the same class as people, or seeing people around. So I really liked that element of it. I think, I don't know, I definitely go in and out of phases of doing it. Like sometimes I won't do it for a while and then I'll get back into it. And I've got my own little like practice that I'll do at home, my own little flow. But I'm not like naturally flexible or like a naturally like yogi, kind of person who's like legs up there or like doing things. But I never felt intimidated in that way. I think I always saw it much more as like a personal journey. And like often whenever I'm teaching yoga, I always will say like, focus on your body, like your body, you practice. And I think that's such a key thing to put into it, because it's less about what you look like and more what it feels like, and like making that pose with your body, how that feels and strengthens or opens, rather than getting to like the perfect kind of yoga posture. So I've just kind of always felt drawn to it. I like all the different elements of it. Like I said, the breathing, the breath work I always really enjoyed, always like really like the element of kind of, you know, you move a lot at the beginning and then it gets slower towards the end and you stretch. And I think especially, you know, we sit down so much in our jobs, in our lives, and our hips get so tight. So I think, you know, doing a lot of hip openers, which is amazing in yoga, is a really great thing for all of us to be doing, because, you know, we can get such tight hips, such tight lower backs from sitting all the time.
Right.
Such poor posture. You know, so many people, probably more our phones that have given us, it's like, what's the hump called that people are getting? It's like, people are developing like a hump on their back from this because of the weight of our heads.
Incredible.
I think, you know, what's good about yoga is that you're strengthening like all your different muscles in your body. And I think it's great for that posture, great for the hip opening. And also, you know, if you're maybe like find meditation a bit overwhelming, I guess it's a mindful movement. So it's quite nice in that way. But I think keep going, try and find the right teacher for you. I think you'll find someone that you're like, oh my God, I love this person. And I think that's what will kind of get you in.
My last attempt was going on YouTube, finding a YouTube yoga teacher and doing it myself.
Yeah.
And sometimes also with my wife. But yeah, I still haven't found I still haven't found
I'll give you access to the Glow Space. So I've got a digital platform and I've got yoga on there. So if you want to come and listen to a British voice.
That was actually something I wanted to ask you about. The Glow Space. Could you tell us about the Glow Space? What is it?
So it's a digital platform with movement, meditation and meal plans. So it's all about bringing wellness to your home. So I felt, you know, that even though I was like a yoga teacher, you know, a nutritionist, I was still finding it hard to like move every day and look after myself and eat nourishing meals all the time, you know, because I'm working and mothering, all these things that come into life. And I thought, if I'm struggling with it, I'm sure other people are.
Yeah.
So I guess kind of I did they're all kind of 20, 30 minutes long yoga flows, Pilates flows, and then sort of 5-minute long meditations. So it's sort of about people setting up a morning routine where they can do their movement and meditation. And then I do lots of kind of meal plans and meal preps. So again, I find like if you take an hour or two on a Sunday to cook a few things, it just makes your week run so much easier. And whether that's like batch cooking and freezing or having some things in the fridge, you know, that is something that's revolutionized my life. And I know it's helped others, because sometimes you get home, you know, from work or from a busy day at 5 o'clock and you're like, what am I going to eat? And then you go to the supermarket and you're staring like with no inspiration. And like, and that's why people end up having takeaways like all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if you know, I've got that amazing like stew in the freezer, I'll just reheat it. You know, you're going to be eating like great nourishing meals, but also saving money as well. Because you're not eating out as much or kind of buying as much food. And then as well, you know, being a mom, like having lots of snacks, like make some like almond blueberry muffins or like date and nut energy balls. And I've just got them in the fridge and they're just ready to go for like that after school snack. So I'm not buying like snack bars or these other things on the go. So a lot of meal prep has been really helpful. So I've tried to kind of.
That's so important, right? To learn how to prepare yourself, to learn how to cook. You know, that's a game changer for healthy eating habits, I think.
100%, because I think everyone roughly, I would say, knows what to do and like, you know, that they should eat better and things like that. But I think it's sometimes the how, like the habits, even talking to one of my girlfriends, she was saying like, she went through a week where it was like 5 nights in a row, takeaway every single night. And she was like, I know how to cook and I know what's healthy. Like, what am I doing? But like, just get in that perpetual cycle of like, you've got no food in the fridge, you've not. So I think it's just retraining those habits of like a weekly shop or, heading to the farmer's market, or like integrating and valuing that and putting aside time for that in your week to make life kind of
important.
Yeah, and flow forward. So that was kind of the inspiration. And it's been really fun and I'm really enjoying it. And there's a little community, and I've been doing some events and like walks in London and Pilates brunches with people and things like that. Because when I first started my business 11 years ago, I did so many events. I did like supper clubs and like cookery classes. And that was like a big part of my business. Like I'd always have 2 events a month. And then I guess lockdown happened. And then after that, I just kind of stopped doing it. And actually, it's nice being online, but it's so nice speaking to people and even just chatting to you now, like actually having proper conversations rather than just speaking at people over your phone, where it's just like this one-way conversation. You're like, so I really like meeting people. I learned so much from those experiences. And I think,
how important is the community when it comes to like you embark on this health journey?
Yeah, I think community is so important.
That's important, right?
I think so. I think naturally, they've said that above everything, food, sleep, relationships is like the number one thing for us to keep us healthy and happy and live. So yeah, and I think sometimes, I definitely felt this when I stopped drinking in my 20s, like you do lose friends, maybe it doesn't happen so much when you're older because people are a bit more mature, but definitely like I wasn't really going clubbing and I wasn't doing the things that my friends wanted to do. And that was quite tricky. Yeah. And, I think people want to be hanging out with other people like who like doing the same things as them. So I've found that really helpful is doing community events and doing that. I feel really lucky because I live in a city where I grew up and my parents and my brothers and sisters are here as well. So I'm quite surrounded by community. But lots of people, like when I put on events, they've just moved from a different country to London and they don't know anyone. So these are like these amazing experiences to meet people. So yeah, I think if you're feeling that way, keep going to things that you like, whether that's a rock climbing place or, pottery studio or a Pilates class. And that's a great way to start like connecting with other people who are into what you're into, or finding events in the area of interest. Because I think having someone that's like-minded and into what you do is so key. At least it has been for me. I think I felt much more like supported and valued and interesting. A lot of my friends who like weren't into it are now really into it. So sometimes you have to wait for people to come around to stuff. But yeah, I think community is really key and it's not always easy. But you just keep putting yourself in situations where there are people who are also into that same thing. And I think everyone's out there wanting to make connections and speak to people and share what's going on for them. And, especially in the health and wellness world, I think people are always quite curious about learning, more about nutrition or more about movement or more about anything. Like it's an area you can always be a student in, like we're students for life, right? So I think, being able to share something that's worked for you is always helpful. I sometimes find like even in comments, like on the Glow Space or on social media, like sometimes it's when other people answer, it's like, oh, I'm struggling with this. And then someone's like, hey, I've tried this. And I love that. Like it's like, obviously it was meant to be me that answers it, but then someone else has come in and that I always think that's really cool. And really like, there's some negative sides of social media, but those things are really beautiful. And
totally.
I think the more we can be in person with humans, the better. Like, of course, my business is online and so much, but I think we naturally should be with other humans in real life as much as possible.
So when it comes to money, how do you make health and well-being accessible to people on a budget? People that might think that yoga classes are too expensive. It's too expensive to even join an online platform.
I made the Glow Space really affordable. So it's £9.99. So £9.99 a month.
A month. Mm.
So that's less than, I mean, a yoga class.
It's less than Netflix.
Less than Netflix, and less than a yoga class in London would be about £16.
Mm.
So it's less than one yoga class. So I've definitely been quite conscious to make it incredibly affordable in terms of what you're getting. But I definitely agree with you. Health and wellness can definitely isolate a lot of people because there's like, you know, the new, I don't know, PMF mat or the new like infrared sauna that you need to have in your house or something like that. So I think my kind of things are, you know, forget about the gadgets, natural light, completely free. You can get that. And that's probably going to be a better thing for your sleep than any of the other gadgets. You know, going to a farmer's market, shopping like that, that's also a more affordable way. I don't know if you guys have got this, but like in the UK, in our big supermarkets, we've got like world food aisles. And they're really great places to get big things of like spices more cheaply, big packs of like beans or things like that. You can buy them in more bulk buy, but bulk buying food is also really good. You know, also batch cooking. So cooking a big stew or soup or something and then using portions of it. That's a really great way of, you know, being more affordable. And also like, making your own lunch, bringing that in rather than like buying lunch every day is a good one.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, you know, even if you definitely don't have to subscribe to the Glow Space, but you can just put on your trainers or go for a walk outside or go for a run. Yeah. These things are
they're free.
Yeah, they're completely free. And I think, you know, I totally get sucked into the luxury side of health and wellness of all the gadgets and all the things that people want to buy. But I think at the foundation of, you know, to meditate, you just need your breath and to sit down or lie down. Like you really don't need all the other things. And we do have so much free stuff on YouTube at our fingertips. Like it's kind of nuts. Like have you ever got into tapping? Yeah, like I've recently just been doing some tapping.
What is that?
So you tap like particular, I think they're like meridians on your body.
Okay.
And it's like a sort of a therapy side of releasing things. And I really love it because you basically acknowledge what's going on. So it might be like, I know I'm trying to be perfect, but I don't need to be perfect and I let it go. And it's this kind of technique of you say like what you're doing, but how you know that's not serving you anymore and you're ready to let it go.
I see.
And I've been doing loads of it. And honestly, I'm feeling so good for it. I love it. And, you know, it's amazing. Like it's all free. I mean, I know you pay for your internet a bit, but like compared to if you met with one of these people one-on-one, like it is so incredible, like the tools that we have, like, and that can come at overwhelm, right? Because there's so much, like, what do we do? There's a million different things. But I think, you know, drinking good quality water, eating good quality food.
And getting your food directly from the producer, I think that's a great idea. I do that a lot. Buying my grass-fed meat from directly from the farmer instead of going to the supermarket, which is like you skip so many steps from the food getting to you, right? I think that's a great idea.
And buying cheaper cuts as well, you know, chicken thighs instead of breast, or like bits of meat, you know, that you can slow roast instead of steaks. You're buying like a shoulder or something like that.
Yeah. In many cases, I find them even more delicious than the most expensive cuts. So you mentioned your 6-year-old son.
Mm-hmm.
How has being a mother changed how you perceive and approach health?
I definitely think I'm more flexible than I probably was, because I think I don't have as much time for myself. Whereas I think pre-motherhood, I would have been like going to the yoga studio, getting a matcha latte, then like doing all the kind of classic, like what you'd see as wellness. Whereas now it is a bit more like, on the mat, 20 minutes, shout, get going. But I definitely notice it's almost like you've got this little experiment. So like when he goes to say like a party where there's loads of sugar or, these things, and he eats it, I can see the difference in his behavior of how much he doesn't sleep as well, how more erratic he is. So it's been a real like amazing experiment just to see how much food and nutrition impacts his life in such a great way. I've just really tried to, instill like great habits with him, giving him lots of great nourishing food. I don't know, what else has it made? I mean, obviously you're in the house all the time when you have a child. It's probably made me sleep better, which probably parents are not going to want to. Of course, when he was little, no. But because I tend to like put him to bed and then I go to sleep quite quickly afterwards. Whereas probably before I would like stay up watching TV really late. But I know I have to get up early and be on form. So I've kind of got better at going to sleep at like 9 o'clock now. Which I really enjoy. But, it's definitely hard. Like, you don't have as much time for yourself and you don't have as much time for your friends and your other people in your life. But I think I've just learnt to, just when I prioritize those just in different ways and, invite them round for dinner so that I can hang out with them, but also be with my son as well. But yeah, I mean, I've really loved motherhood and it's something I'm always like learning and expanding and trying to improve on all the time. And it's definitely something that's made me have sort of less time for health and wellness in some ways, but almost value it more because I know I've got like this purpose of showing up for him. And I always think the best way to get other people involved in health and wellness is just to be it rather than, I think no one likes being told what to do. So when you're like, you have to do this, they're like, no. So I find if you just like be yourself and show up in a way, then they're often kind of interested. And, for so long, I like really wanted my son to meditate. I was like, got to try this. And it's just like, not into it. Like, okay, I'll just got to let it go. And then one night, I can't remember, it was super random. I just started kind of leading him through this like meditation where I took him to like this dreamland and all this stuff. And he just really got into it. And then every night it's what we do. So I think sometimes
every night.
Yeah, it's just like the new like way of getting to sleep. And I think it's one of those things where I think people will pick up on these things, but they just have to do it in their own ways, in their own time. And you have to be patient. And that can be, that can be really hard when you've suddenly got into healthy eating and you want to share it with the world, or you really got into exercise and you're like, everyone needs to do it. But, I think people will come to it when they're ready.
That's something that I wanted to ask you. When you start like your wellness journey, what would be the first thing?
I would start with sleep because I think it will ripple from there. So trying to get kind of, they say 6 to 8 for men and then 8 to 10 for women, hours of sleep a night, having your phone out of your room, having an hour wind down before bed. I think that I just think then you're waking up so much more likely to,
and not eating dinner too late. That's something that I changed, and I found that was a game changer for me.
Yeah, no, you're so right. It's because I've always eaten early. Like that was just how I grew up. So I never knew any different to it. But I'm like a 5:30, 6 o'clock.
In Spain, it's so hard to, restaurants open at 8. Most people eat at, the restaurants start to like get full at 9, and you can book a table at 12 if you want.
Yeah, no, it's a different culture.
Yeah. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram, which is Madeleine_Shaw_, or on the Glow Space, which is theglowspace.co.uk.
Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I hope that we can get in touch soon.
Definitely. Yeah, I would love that. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Hunger for Change podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I also wanted to take a moment to talk about Naturally, my brand of healthy food products. At Naturally, we are on a mission to change the world through what we eat. This is why we worked so hard to make products that are delicious and also good for you. They're all gluten-free, have no refined sugars, no sweeteners, and no additives. At the moment, Naturally is only available in Europe. However, we're working to expand to other continents, so stay tuned. If you're in Spain, you can head over to our website, naturally.com, and it will take you to our online store. And if you're in Italy, Portugal, Germany, Poland, France, the Netherlands, or in Sweden, you can find them on Amazon. I will leave you all these links in the description anyway, so that you can find them. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for the next episode.